Welcome back to US Mint X Coins. Before you skip this video, I want you to do one simple thing. Think about the last time you looked at the loose change sitting in your car, your kitchen drawer, or that old coin jar hidden somewhere in your house. Now imagine finding a strange-looking 1970 Roosevelt Dime with deep purple and bright orange colors covering the entire surface. Most people would say one thing: it is damaged, it is worthless. Throw it back with the rest of the change. But experienced coin collectors know that unusual-looking coins deserve a second look, because sometimes the most ordinary coin can hide the most extraordinary story. And today we are talking about one of the most mysterious Roosevelt dimes collectors love to examine. A 1970 Roosevelt dime with intense purple and orange toning. At first glance, it almost looks fake. It does not look like the shiny silver-colored dime most Americans know. Instead, it has strange colors that seem almost impossible for a coin to develop naturally. That raises one very important question. What exactly happened to this coin? Was it exposed to heat? Was it stored away for decades inside an old album? Was it kept inside a bank vault with unusual environmental conditions? Or is there something about this coin that most people completely overlook? Stay with me, because before this video ends, we are going to uncover the real story behind these unusual coins, the mint errors collectors search for, and why thousands of people across the United States are checking their old Roosevelt dimes more carefully than ever before. The interesting thing about coin collecting is that the biggest discoveries often happen when nobody is expecting them. A person cleaning out a family estate, a grandfather opening a forgotten box in the attic, a waitress counting tips after a long day, a student rolling coins to exchange at the bank. Over and over again, incredible finds begin with the same simple sentence: "I almost spent it." That is why serious collectors never ignore a strange-looking coin, especially one that stands out from the rest. The Roosevelt dime itself has an important place in American history. Introduced in 1946 to honor President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the design quickly became one of the most recognized coins in the nation. For decades, these dimes passed through millions of hands every single day. Most of them entered circulation and disappeared into everyday commerce. But every now and then, something unusual happened during production or during the life of the coin. And those are the examples collectors remember. Now let us talk about the feature that gets everyone talking: the color. Purple, orange, sometimes mixed with blue, gold, or green around the edges. In the coin collecting world, this is called toning. Toning happens when the metal on the surface reacts over time with the environment around it. Different storage conditions can create different colors. Coins stored inside old paper envelopes, albums, or containers may slowly develop colorful surfaces after many years. Some collectors absolutely love this effect because no two-toned coins are exactly alike. But here is where the mystery becomes even bigger. Not every colorful coin is naturally toned. Sometimes exposure to heat, chemicals, or artificial methods can produce dramatic colors very quickly. That is why unusual toned coins always start conversations among collectors. Some people see damage, others see beauty, and experienced experts look much deeper, because the first question is never how pretty the coin looks. The first question is whether the coin has any collectible features beyond the color itself. That is where things become exciting. Most people never realize that a tiny mint error can transform an ordinary coin into a collector conversation piece. The United States Mint produces billions of coins, but the minting process is not perfect. Machines wear down, dies crack, blanks feed incorrectly, alignment shifts by just a fraction of an inch. And sometimes those tiny mistakes escape quality control. Those mistakes become mint errors. And mint errors are exactly what many collectors are searching for. The first thing experts check on a 1970 Roosevelt dime is the date and the mint mark. A coin without a mint mark came from Philadelphia, A coin with a small D came from Denver, and proof examples with an S mint mark were struck in San Francisco for collectors. Each mint has its own history and its own possibilities for unusual varieties. The next step is examining the lettering. Take a close look at Liberty. Look carefully at In God We Trust. Study the numbers in the date. Why? Because one of the most famous categories of mint errors is known as the double die. A double die occurs when the design on the die itself receives a slight misalignment during creation. The result can produce visible doubling on letters or numbers. To the average person, it may look like nothing, but under magnification, experienced collectors can sometimes spot details that others completely miss. Imagine finding a coin that millions of people would spend without thinking twice, but you notice tiny signs of doubling that separate it from ordinary examples. That is one of the reasons coin collecting remains so exciting. You never know when knowledge will reveal something hidden in plain sight. Another error collectors watch for is the off-center strike. This happens when the blank coin is not perfectly positioned when it is struck by the dies. The design appears shifted, leaving part of the coin blank. The more dramatic the shift while still showing the date, the more attention these pieces often receive. Then there is the clipped planchet error. This happens before the coin is even struck. During production, large sheets of metal are punched into circular blanks. If the punch overlaps an already cut area, it can leave a curved missing section on the blank. When that blank becomes a finished coin, it creates one of the most recognizable mint errors in American numismatics. Collectors immediately recognize the unusual shape, and many people have accidentally spent these coins simply because they thought they were damaged. But that is not all. Some Roosevelt dimes display die cracks. These appear as raised lines crossing parts of the design because the die itself began to crack after striking thousands of coins. As the crack grows larger, it can eventually create a feature called a cud, where a portion of the die breaks away completely, leaving a raised blob of metal on the struck coin. To someone unfamiliar with mint errors, these may seem like defects. To a collector, they can be fascinating evidence of the manufacturing process itself. Now let us return to our mysterious purple and orange dime. Suppose you discover one in your own collection. What should you do first? The answer may surprise you. Do absolutely nothing to the surface. Never polish it. Never scrub it. Never dip it into chemicals. Never use household cleaners. One of the biggest mistakes new collectors make is trying to improve the appearance of a coin. Cleaning often leaves microscopic scratches and destroys the original surface. Many coins that could have attracted collector interest lose that appeal forever after being cleaned. Instead, place the coin safely inside a protective holder and compare it with known examples. Look carefully for unusual strike characteristics. Check the edge. Study the lettering. Examine the torch olive branch and oak branch on the reverse. Sometimes the smallest details tell the biggest story. One reason toned coins generate so much attention is because they are unique. No two examples tone exactly the same way. The environment, temperature, humidity, storage materials, and time all work together to create different patterns. Some coins develop rings of color around the edges while others show waves of blue, purple, orange, and gold across the entire surface. When collectors see an especially attractive example, they often refer to it as rainbow toning. Beautiful natural toning can increase collector interest because eye appeal matters in the hobby, but experts always separate natural toning from artificial alteration. That is why authentication and careful examination are important. Now imagine this scenario. A family inherits a small wooden box filled with old pocket change. Nobody thinks much about it. Inside are quarters, nickels, pennies, and dimes collected over decades. One evening, someone decides to look through the coins just for fun. Most are ordinary. Then one coin catches the light. A 1970 Roosevelt dime unlike any other. Purple near the portrait, orange around the edges, an unusual line crossing the reverse, maybe even slight doubling in the lettering. Suddenly, the ordinary becomes interesting. That is exactly how many collecting journeys begin. not with a treasure map, not with expensive equipment, just curiosity. That curiosity has built one of the largest collector communities in America. People search through bankrolls, estate sales, flea markets, old piggy banks, and inherited collections, because history sometimes hides inside everyday objects. And that brings us to another important point. Condition matters. Two identical coins can have completely different levels of collector interest, depending on preservation. A coin that spent decades rattling around in pockets may show heavy wear. Another coin stored carefully, since the day it was struck, may still display nearly perfect details. Collectors often use grading terms like good, fine, extremely fine about uncirculated and mint state to describe preservation. The higher the grade, the more original details remain. And when an unusual toned coin also happens to be in exceptional condition, it naturally attracts more attention from the collecting community. There's also something fascinating about the psychology of coins. Every coin has traveled. It may have bought a newspaper in the 1970s. It may have crossed the country inside a cash register. It may have sat forgotten inside a military foot locker or an old family safe. Nobody knows exactly where a particular dime has been. That mystery becomes part of its story. The 1970 Roosevelt Dime in front of you may have passed through thousands of hands before ending up in yours. And yet one person willing to look closely can notice what everyone else ignored. Coin collecting is not only about value. It is about discovery. It is about history. It is about paying attention in a world where most people rush past the details. The next time you receive change at a grocery store, gas station, or local diner, do not immediately throw the coins into a cup holder. Take a second look. Separate the older dates. Watch for unusual colors. Look for off-center strikes, clipped plankets, die cracks, and possible doubling. You might not find something extraordinary on the first day or the second day, but every great collection begins with a single coin, and every experienced collector remembers the first unusual piece that sparked their interest. Maybe this mysterious 1970 Roosevelt Dime with purple and orange toning will be that coin for you. Maybe it will simply be an interesting conversation piece. Or maybe it will lead you into one of the most fascinating hobbies in America, where history, art, craftsmanship, and detective work all come together. That is why so many collectors say never judge a coin too quickly. What looks ordinary today might become the centerpiece of a collection tomorrow. And what looks damaged to one person may inspire another person to investigate further. The truth is that millions of Roosevelt dimes are still waiting to be discovered in forgotten places across the country. Some are hiding inside old albums. Some are buried in coin jars. Some are tucked away inside dresser drawers. And some are probably sitting in your own home right now. The only difference between an ordinary coin and an exciting discovery is the person willing to take a closer look. So before you spend another old dime, remember this story. Remember the strange purple and orange colors. Remember the hidden mint errors. Remember that tiny details matter, because the next coin you hold in your hand might carry a history nobody else has noticed. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of hidden coin treasures and mysterious mint errors, make sure you stay connected with US Mint X Coins, where every week we uncover fascinating stories, unusual discoveries, and the small details that turn everyday pocket change into a window into American history. Subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and join thousands of collectors who never look at ordinary coins the same way again, because the next incredible discovery could already be waiting in your pocket right now.